1 month after the Battle of Earth, representatives from across the galaxy gathered on neutral ground, a space station orbiting Alpha Centauri. The Grand Hall was filled with beings from hundreds of worlds, all there to witness a historic moment. Admiral Dennis Coleman walked slowly to the center of the room. He wore his formal uniform, medals gleaming on his chest. Across from him stood the 7 members of the Alliance High Council, including a humbled High Commander Xterra. "The terms of peace are simple," Coleman said, his voice carrying through the hall. "The Alliance will recognize Earth and the Independent Systems Confederation as equal powers. All restrictions on human technology development will end, and a new galactic council will be formed where all species have equal representation." The lead counselor, an ancient being with translucent skin, spoke reluctantly. "We accept these terms. The peace treaty is hereby ratified." As the document was signed, Captain Daniel Foster stood at attention among the Earth delegation. He leaned slightly toward Captain Andrea Hughes. "I never thought I'd see this day," he whispered. "Nor did they," Andrea replied, nodding toward the Alliance representatives. "They still don't understand how we beat them." "Good," said Daniel. "Let them wonder." In the months that followed, the galaxy changed dramatically. The old alliance crumbled as more systems joined the Confederation. Earth ships, no longer hiding their capabilities, traveled openly between the stars. Human technology, now freely shared with willing partners, spread rapidly. On Earth, engineer Samantha Wells stood in her new laboratory at the Global Technology Institute. The facility was filled with alien visitors, scientists from a dozen worlds who had come to learn and share knowledge. "The shield technology alone has applications beyond defense," she explained to a group of Rigelian engineers. "It can protect planets from solar radiation, contain dangerous atmospheres, even help terraform hostile worlds." Nearby, Dr. Kevin Williams worked with Arcturian scientists to improve the Stargate network, making travel between systems safer and more efficient. The Damocles technology, designed as a weapon, was now being adapted to stabilize dangerous natural phenomena throughout the galaxy. In Washington, the Earth government hosted the first meeting of the new Galactic Council. Representatives from 50 worlds sat in a circular chamber, each with an equal vote. President William Clark opened the session. "We gather not as rulers and subjects, but as equals," he said. "The time of empires is over. The future belongs to cooperation and mutual respect." From the shadows, some watched these developments with unease. On distant worlds, former Alliance military leaders whispered of revenge. Some species feared humanity's rapid rise to power. The peace was real, but fragile. Admiral Coleman understood this better than most. In his office at the New Earth Fleet headquarters, he met with a young Alliance diplomat named Renlo who had been sent to study humanity. "Your people accomplished in months what others couldn't do in centuries," Renlo said. "You broke the Alliance's power when many thought it was impossible." Coleman looked thoughtfully at the alien. "Humans have always been good at achieving the impossible when our survival is at stake." "Does it concern you?" Renlo asked carefully. "That some now fear humans as much as they once feared the Alliance?" Coleman walked to the window, looking out at the rebuilt fleet in Earth orbit. The ships were even more advanced now, incorporating lessons learned during the conflict. "Fear is a poor foundation for peace," he said finally. "That's why we're working so hard to build trust instead. But yes, it concerns me. We fought for our freedom, not to become the new tyrants." Renlo nodded. "Many are watching to see which path humanity chooses." "Then let them watch," Coleman said. "Judge us by our actions, not our capabilities." As night fell across Earth, citizens looked up at stars that no longer represented distant, unreachable points of light. They were now doorways to a future humanity would help shape. The galaxy had been forever changed. Humanity had earned its place through force, but now faced the greater challenge of building a lasting peace that wasn't founded on terror. The journey from legend to terror was complete. What came next would be humanity's true test. The sky above Earth burned. Alliance warships, still hundreds strong despite the success of the Damocles Protocol, pushed through the outer system defenses. Human ships fought bravely, but they were outnumbered and forced to fall back toward their homeworld. Admiral Coleman watched from the bridge of the Liberty as the defensive line around Mars collapsed. His face remained calm, though the situation was dire. "Order all ships to Formation Delta," he commanded. "Fall back to Earth orbit. This is our final stand." The human fleet, joined by their Arcturian and Regelian allies, formed a protective sphere around Earth. Behind them, the planet's surface-based weapons prepared to fire. Every satellite, every orbital platform, and every ship focused their sensors on the approaching enemy. High Commander Zex Terra watched from the bridge of the Alliance flagship Eternal Glory. Though half his fleet was stranded by the humans' clever trap, he still had more than enough ships to crush this rebellion. "Begin orbital bombardment," he ordered. "Target their major cities first. Let them watch their civilization burn." The Alliance ships launched their first volley, thousands of energy projectiles streaking toward Earth's atmosphere. This was the moment the Alliance expected humanity to surrender, faced with such overwhelming force. But the Alliance did not know about engineer Samantha Wells' final creation. As the energy weapons entered Earth's upper atmosphere, a shimmer appeared in the air, a vast, previously invisible shield that covered the entire planet. The Alliance weapons hit the shield and exploded harmlessly, their energy spreading and dissipating across the protective field. Zex Terra stood from his command chair in shock. Impossible. No planetary shield exists with that power. On the surface, in a control center deep beneath Denver, Samantha monitored the shield's performance. "It's holding," she reported to Olivia Parker, who stood beside her. "The shield can withstand their bombardment for approximately 3 hours before power reserves are depleted." Olivia nodded grimly. "That has to be enough time." In orbit, Admiral Coleman gave the order that humanity had been preparing for. "All ships, execute Operation Thunderclap." The Earth fleet, which had appeared to be in a defensive formation, suddenly split into 3 distinct groups. They moved with perfect coordination, their paths creating a complex pattern that confused Alliance targeting systems. The U.S. Defiant, now under the command of Captain Foster after its previous captain had been injured, led the first group. They accelerated directly toward the center of the Alliance formation. "All power to forward shields," Foster ordered. "Weapons, target their command ships." The human ships fired in perfect unison, their weapons far more accurate than the Alliance expected. Critical systems on multiple Alliance vessels exploded as the human fleet sliced through their formation. Meanwhile, the second and third groups of Earth ships executed a pincer movement, cutting off the Alliance's escape routes and surrounding their core fleet. On the Eternal Glory, alarms blared as systems failed. "They're targeting our command and control systems specifically," an officer reported. "Our ships can't coordinate their actions." Zex Terra watched in growing horror as the human fleet, though smaller, systematically disabled his ships one by one. The Earth vessels moved with an uncanny precision, always one step ahead of Alliance tactics. "It's their AI combat systems," an Alliance tactical officer realized too late. "They're predicting our every move before we make it." 3 hours into the battle, the situation had reversed completely. The Alliance fleet was in disarray, with over half their ships disabled or destroyed. The remainder were surrounded by the combined Earth, Arcturian, and Regelian forces. Admiral Coleman opened a channel to the Eternal Glory. "High Commander Zex Terra, your fleet is defeated. Your reinforcements are stranded by our Damocles technology. You have one option: surrender." On screens across Earth, billions of humans watched and held their breath. The greatest power in the galaxy, which had oppressed humanity for generations, was facing defeat for the first time. After a long moment of silence, Zex Terra's voice came over the channel. This is not possible. We are the Alliance. We cannot be defeated by humans." "Look around you, Commander," Coleman replied calmly. The impossible has already happened. Dr. Kevin Williams hadn't slept in 3 days. The scientist's eyes were red-rimmed as he stared at the complex equations floating in a holographic display before him. His team of 20 scientists worked around him in the underground lab beneath the Rocky Mountains, all focused on the same goal. "I think we've got it," Kevin said finally, his voice rough from too much coffee and too little rest. He turned to Admiral Coleman, who had come personally to check on their progress. "The Damocles protocol is ready." Coleman looked at the display, though the mathematics were beyond even his understanding. "You're sure it will work?" "In theory, yes," Kevin said. "It targets the quantum frequency that stargates use for stable connections. Once activated, any gate within range will collapse, and new ones can't form for at least 72 hours. Coleman nodded slowly. This was the weapon Earth needed, not to destroy the Alliance, but to even the odds. The Alliance Grand Fleet relied on stargates to move quickly between systems. Without them, the massive fleet would be split into smaller groups that Earth could handle. "How many devices can you build in time?" Coleman asked. 6, Kevin replied. "We already have the first 2 ready." Coleman put his hand on the scientist's shoulder. "Get some sleep, Kevin. You've just given humanity a fighting chance." Elsewhere in the same facility, Lieutenant Commander Ben Franklin studied the mission plans with his special operations team. They were an elite group, selected for their ability to operate deep behind enemy lines. "Our job is to plant the Damocles devices at these key points," Ben explained, pointing to locations on a star map. "Each one has to be precisely positioned to create a perimeter that will trap sectors of the Alliance fleet." One of his team, Sergeant Amy Dixon, looked concerned. "The placement puts us right in the path of their advance." Ben nodded. "That's why they're sending us. It's high risk, but if we succeed, we cut their fleet in half." Meanwhile, aboard the U.S. Intrepid, Captain Andrea Hughes received her new orders. Her ship, along with 3 others, would conduct a feint attack designed to draw Alliance forces into the trap. "Your mission is to make them chase you," Admiral Coleman told her via secure communication. "Make them think you're trying to flank their main force. Get them to commit at least a third of their ships to pursuing you." Andrea understood the danger. "And then we lead them into the Damocles field." "Exactly," Coleman said. "Timing is critical. You'll have a narrow window to jump out before the gates collapse." The pieces of humanity's desperate plan were coming together. The Alliance Grand Fleet, nearly 500 ships strong, had already passed the outer colonies of Ta City. They would reach Seoul in less than a week, confident in their overwhelming numbers. They didn't know about Special Operations Team Alpha, which had already slipped behind their lines in ships too small to be easily detected. Lieutenant Commander Franklin and his team moved quietly from position to position, placing the strange devices that would change the nature of the coming battle. Device 1. Activated, Ben reported after the first placement. The small black box hummed softly as it began its work, invisible energies building up around it. Back on Earth, citizens watched the skies with a mixture of fear and determination. The shelters were nearly complete, defensive systems were online, and the combined Earth fleet, now strengthened by ships from Arcturus and Rigel, prepared for the greatest challenge humanity had ever faced. Admiral Coleman stood on the bridge of the Liberty, looking at the tactical display that showed the approaching Alliance armada. The human ships were outnumbered nearly 10-1. "Send the signal to Captain Hughes," he ordered. "Begin Operation Divided Sword." The Intrepid and its small battle group accelerated away from Earth, deliberately letting Alliance scouts detect them. As planned, a large section of the Alliance fleet broke off to pursue what they thought was an easy target. They were racing directly toward an invisible trap, one that would strand them far from their main force when they needed support most. The sword of Damocles was about to fall. The news of humanity's victory at Proxima Centauri traveled faster than any spaceship. Throughout the galaxy, species that had long lived under Alliance rule watched and whispered, some with fear, others with hope. On the planet Arcturus IV, blue-skinned beings with 4 arms gathered in underground meeting halls. For centuries, the Arcturians have been forced to provide resources to the Alliance while receiving little in return. The humans have shown it can be done, said Elder Kazrel to the gathered crowd. If they can stand against the Alliance, so can we. Similar meetings happened on Rigel Prime, where the reptilian Rigelians had suffered under harsh quotas and trade restrictions for generations. Within days, both systems officially declared their independence from the Alliance. They sent messages to Earth, seeking friendship with the humans who had dared to challenge the old order. Admiral Coleman sat in his office on the captured Proxima station, reading these messages with a thoughtful expression. Captain Foster and Fleet Captain Mitchell stood before him, waiting for his response. "It's happening faster than we expected," Coleman said. "The Alliance is starting to fracture." "Is that good for us?" asked Foster. Coleman nodded. "Very good, but also dangerous. The Alliance won't let its empire collapse without a fight." He turned to Mitchell. "Send messages to both the Arcturians and Rigelians. Tell them Earth welcomes them as equals in a new independent systems confederation." Meanwhile, in the Alliance capital on the distant world of Centauri Prime, High Commander Zex Terra slammed his fist on the table. "I want the Grand Fleet assembled immediately," he ordered. "Every available warship. We will crush this human rebellion and make an example of them that will last 1,000 years." The Grand Fleet was the Alliance's ultimate weapon, 500 warships that had never been defeated. It would take time to gather, but when it arrived at Earth, the Alliance leaders believed the human uprising would end quickly. They did not know that human spies were already reporting these movements back to Earth. On Earth itself, regular citizens were just beginning to learn what their military had done. Olivia Parker, the civilian coordinator in charge of planetary defense, addressed a meeting of city leaders from around the world. "The war we've started will not stay in distant star systems," she told them. "The Alliance will strike back, and we must be ready. Every major city needs underground shelters, emergency supplies, and evacuation plans." The mayor of Chicago raised his hand. "How can we possibly defend against an empire that controls most of the galaxy?" Olivia's face was grim but determined. "The same way humans have always faced stronger enemies, with courage, innovation, and the will to survive. Our fleet has proven we can win battles. Now we on Earth must prove we can endure whatever comes." Teams of workers across the planet began converting subway tunnels into shelters, stockpiling food and medicine, and installing defensive systems designed by Earth scientists. In orbit around Mars, Admiral Coleman met with the leaders of the newly formed Independent Systems Confederation. Representatives from Earth, Arcturus, and Rigel gathered around a large table. "The Alliance is assembling its Grand Fleet," Coleman told them. "They will come first to Earth, thinking if they crush us, you will fall back in line." The Arcturian ambassador, her 4 blue arms folded across her chest, spoke confidently. "They are wrong. We stand with Earth." The Rigelian representative hissed in agreement, his scaled tail twitching. "For too long, the Alliance has ruled through fear. That ends now." Coleman smiled. "Then let us plan together. The Alliance believes their superior numbers guarantee victory. We will show them that quality matters more than quantity." As the meeting continued, a message arrived from Earth's Deep Space Monitoring Network. The Alliance Grand Fleet had begun to move. 500 warships were headed toward Sol, intent on crushing the human rebellion once and for all. The real test of humanity's new power was about to begin. News of the attack on the Jupiter monitoring station spread through the Galactic Alliance like wildfire. On the massive space station that orbited Proxima Centauri, Alliance leaders gathered in emergency session. Their faces, of various colors and shapes depending on their species, all showed the same emotion: shock. "Impossible," said High Commander Zex Terra, the 7-foot-tall leader of the Alliance military. "Humans don't have this technology." But the evidence was clear on the screens before them. The Jupiter station had been attacked by ships of human design, but with power that should have been beyond their reach. Meanwhile, in Earth orbit, Admiral Coleman addressed the captains of the now completed human fleet. All 20 ships were ready for action, their crews trained and eager. "The Alliance is scrambling," Coleman said. "They're moving their nearest battle group to Proxima Centauri. They think they're preparing a show of force, but they're actually giving us the perfect target." Fleet Captain Greg Mitchell, the tactical genius who had helped plan Earth's military resurrection, stood beside a holographic map of the Proxima system. "The Alliance keeps their main regional base here," he said, pointing to a large station in orbit around Proxima. "It controls all military operations in this sector of space. If we take it, we control the gateway to Earth." Coleman nodded. "Operation Phoenix Dawn begins in 12 hours. All ships will jump simultaneously using our new drive. The Alliance doesn't know we have this technology, so we'll achieve complete surprise." Captain Foster, fresh from the Jupiter mission, asked, "What about civilian casualties?" "Minimal or none," Coleman replied firmly. "We're targeting military assets only. This is about freedom, not revenge." The captains returned to their ships to prepare. Aboard the fleet flagship, the U.S. Liberty, Coleman met with Dr. Alan Murphy. "Are the AI combat systems ready for a larger engagement?" Coleman asked. Alan nodded. "Yes, Admiral. The AIs have been running simulations based on Lieutenant Rodriguez's intelligence data. They know exactly how Alliance ships will respond. We'll be 3 steps ahead at every turn." 12 hours later, the human fleet vanished from Earth orbit in flashes of blue light. The new jump drive, developed secretly by Samantha Wells and her team, allowed the ships to bypass normal space entirely, appearing at their destination without warning. In the Proxima system, alarms blared as 20 human warships suddenly appeared in perfect formation around the Alliance military base. Before the alien ships could even raise their shields, the human fleet opened fire with precision strikes. On the Liberty's bridge, Fleet Captain Mitchell coordinated the attack. Group 1, target their main power generators. Group 2, take out their weapon platforms. Group 3, neutralize those patrol ships before they can launch. The human ships moved with incredible coordination, their AI systems predicting enemy movements and countering them instantly. Alliance ships exploded or drifted powerless as their systems were disabled by targeted strikes. On the Alliance command station, panic reigned. "Where did they come from?" screamed a commander. "How did they get past our early warning network?" "Unknown jump technology," replied a sensor officer. "They're everywhere at once." Within 30 minutes, the battle was effectively over. The Alliance forces at Proxima Centauri, the nearest military hub to Earth, and intended to be the staging ground for the Alliance response, had been completely defeated. Half of their ships were destroyed, the other half disabled. The command station itself was intact but powerless, its weapons and shields offline. Captain Foster brought the Defiant alongside the station and opened a communication channel. "Alliance Command Station, this is Captain Daniel Foster of the Earth Defense Force. Your facility is now under our control. We offer safe passage to all non-military personnel. The rest will be detained as prisoners of war." Across the galaxy, leaders of the Alliance received the news with disbelief. The humans, whom they had dismissed as primitives barely worth noticing, had just delivered the first major military defeat the Alliance had suffered in 3 centuries. And this was only the beginning. Captain Daniel Foster sat in the command chair of the U.S. Defiant and watched his crew prepare for their first real mission. The ship hummed with power around him, all systems running perfectly. This vessel was nothing like the outdated ships the Alliance had allowed humans to build. This was a true warship, built with humanity's hidden knowledge. "All stations report ready, Captain," said his first officer, Commander Eric Hill. Daniel nodded. "Begin countdown to departure." Beside the Defiant, in the massive lunar hangar, the U.S. Intrepid was also preparing to launch. The 2 ships represented the first wave of humanity's new fleet. They would be the first to show the Alliance what humans were truly capable of. 10 minutes to launch, announced the ship's eye. Daniel opened a channel to Admiral Coleman, who was watching from the command center. "Sir, we're ready to begin the operation." Coleman's face appeared on the screen. "Good hunting, Captain. Remember, this is not just an attack. It's a message." Daniel understood. This strike needed to be perfect, swift, devastating, and with minimal damage to their own ships. The galaxy needed to see that humans were not just fighters, but skilled warriors. 6 hours later, the Defiant and Intrepid approached Jupiter using a new stealth system that masked their energy signatures. The massive gas giant loomed before them, its swirling storms visible from millions of miles away. Near the planet's L4 Lagrange point floated the Alliance Monitoring Station, a structure about the size of a small moon base with only light defenses. "They've detected us," reported Lieutenant Maria Rodriguez from the sensor station. "They're powering up their shields." "Too late," Daniel said calmly. "Weapons, target their communication array first. We don't want them calling for help." The Defiant fired its main guns, weapons far more powerful than anything the Alliance thought humans possessed. The energy beams cut through space and struck the station's communication dish with surgical precision. The structure exploded in a ball of flame that quickly died in the vacuum of space. The Intrepid, commanded by Captain Susan Lewis, moved to the other side of the station, blocking any escape routes. "Alliance vessels are launching," Maria reported. 3 patrol ships. Daniel nodded. This was expected. Engage according to plan. Disable, don't destroy unless necessary. The human ships moved with a grace that belied their power. The Alliance patrol vessels fired, but their shots dissipated against the advanced shields of the Earth ships. In return, the Defiant and Intrepid fired precise shots that disabled the Alliance engines and weapons, leaving the ships floating helplessly. "Lieutenant Rodriguez, take your team and board the station," Daniel ordered. "Get all the intelligence data you can. You have 15 minutes." Maria and her team of 6 Marines launched in a small craft toward the crippled station. They wore new battle armor that made them nearly invisible to sensors. Inside the station, the Alliance personnel, a mix of different alien species, were in shock. They had never expected humans to attack, and certainly not with such advanced technology. Maria's team moved through the corridors efficiently, downloading data and securing key areas. "Sir, we've accessed their central database," Maria reported over the comm. "Downloading now. We also have 3 Alliance officers in custody." "Excellent," Daniel replied. "Complete your mission and return." 14 minutes after boarding, Maria's team was back on the Defiant with their prisoners and the stolen data. The human ships turned away from the disabled station, leaving it intact but unable to function. "Set course for Earth," Daniel ordered. "Maximum speed." As the ships accelerated away from Jupiter, Daniel knew that across the galaxy, alarm bells would be ringing. The Alliance would soon learn that one of their monitoring stations had been attacked and disabled by ships they couldn't identify, because they had never seen human ships with this level of technology. The first strike had been delivered. Humanity had shown its teeth, and the galaxy would never be the same. The lunar surface was cold and airless, but beneath it, humanity burned with purpose. In a massive underground hangar carved into the moon's far side, Admiral Dennis Coleman walked along a catwalk, watching workers swarm over the hull of Earth's newest warship, the U.S. Defiant. He said with pride to Chief Engineer Samantha Wells, who walked beside him, "How soon will she be ready?" Samantha brushed her short blonde hair from her eyes and checked her tablet. 2 weeks, sir. We're installing the new drive system today." Below them, technicians guided a massive cylinder into the rear section of the ship. This wasn't alien technology. It was purely human invention, created in secret laboratories on Earth and Mars over the past 5 years. "And the weapons systems?" Coleman asked. "Dr. Murphy has the AI combat systems running at 97% efficiency. Our simulations show they can outthink any Alliance tactical computer. Samantha smiled. They never thought we could develop this technology on our own. Coleman nodded. Project Thunderbolt had been Earth's greatest secret. While pretending to accept Alliance limitations, humanity had been building its own path to the stars. The Defiant was just one of 20 warships nearing completion in hidden facilities throughout the solar system. The Alliance believes we're still playing with toys they gave us, Coleman said. They have no idea what's coming. In another section of the lunar base, Dr. Alan Murphy worked with his team on the ship's artificial intelligence. Unlike the limited systems the Alliance had provided, this AI could make complex battle decisions in milliseconds. Run the simulation again, Alan told his assistant. On the large screen before them, a virtual version of the Defiant faced off against 3 Alliance cruisers. The simulated battle ended in 2 minutes with all Alliance ships disabled. Perfect, Alan said. Upload the final version to the ship. Meanwhile, on Mars, Nickel Barnes stepped off a small transport ship. After 3 years undercover on Proxima Station, the intelligence operative had returned with valuable information. She carried herself carefully, still feeling the effects of surgery that had removed her alien disguise. Nickel was escorted to a secure room where Lisa Harper waited. The 2 women had trained together years ago before taking different paths in Earth's defense. "Welcome home," Lisa said. "Was it worth it?" Nickel placed a data chip on the table between them. "Every moment. This contains the complete schematics of Alliance defense systems, including their weak points. Their shield modulation patterns, weapons recharge times, everything." Lisa picked up the chip with reverence. "Our fleet just became 10 times more effective." "There's something else," Nickel said, her voice lower. "The Alliance is planning to increase their presence in our system. They're suspicious of our activities." Lisa frowned. "How long do we have?" "A month, maybe less. Then we need to move faster," Lisa said. Back on the moon, Admiral Coleman addressed the captains of Earth's new fleet. They gathered in a simple briefing room, men and women who had been selected for their skill and their absolute loyalty to Earth. "Our timetable has been moved up," Coleman told them. "The Alliance is sending more ships to watch us. We need to strike first." Captain Daniel Foster of the U.S. Defiant spoke up. "The ships aren't all ready, sir." "The Defiant is ready, and so does the Intrepid," Coleman replied. "That will be enough for our first mission." He activated a holographic display showing Jupiter and its moons. A small symbol blinked near one of the Lagrange points. "Here is where the Alliance maintains a monitoring post. It's lightly defended but serves as their eyes and ears in the outer system. Captain Foster, you will lead a strike to destroy this facility." The room was silent as the captains absorbed this information. They all understood what it meant. Once this attack happened, humanity would be at war with the Galactic Alliance. "Any questions?" Coleman asked. There were none. These men and women had prepared for this moment their entire careers. "Very well," Coleman said. "Captain Foster, prepare your ship. The U.S. Defiant will make history as the first human vessel to strike back against those who would keep us down." The meeting ended, and humanity's path was set. In 2 days, the galaxy would learn that humans were no longer willing to be controlled. Commander Lisa Harper stared at the data on her screen for the 5th time. She couldn't believe what she was seeing. The files had come from a hacked Alliance communication relay, and they told a story that made her blood boil. "They'd been holding us back," she whispered to the empty room. "All this time." Earth in 2178 was considered a backwater planet by the Galactic Alliance. Humans were allowed to travel to nearby systems, but only under strict supervision. The Alliance claimed this was for humanity's own protection, that they weren't ready for the complexities of galactic politics. But these files showed something else entirely. Lisa downloaded the data to a secure drive and left her office at Earth Defense Force headquarters. The night air in Washington was cool against her face as she walked quickly to her meeting with Ambassador John Keller. The ambassador's office was sparse but elegant. John had been Earth's voice to the stars for 15 years. His hair had gone gray in service to humanity, and tonight he looked older than ever. "You're sure about this?" he asked after Lisa explained what she'd found. "The Alliance has been deliberately sabotaging our technological development," Lisa said. "They've introduced flaws into every piece of tech they've shared. They've been keeping us weak." John sighed and looked out his window at the city lights. "I always suspected something like this. They smile during our meetings, but there's fear behind their eyes." "Fear of us? Why? We've been peaceful." "Perhaps that's not what their history tells them about species like ours," John said. He turned back to her. "I can take this to the Council on Proxima Station, but they'll deny everything." "We have to try," Lisa insisted. "One more diplomatic approach before." She didn't finish her sentence. They both knew what would come next if diplomacy failed. 3 days later, Ambassador Keller stood before the Galactic Alliance Council. Representatives from 27 species sat in tiered seats, looking down at the human with expressions ranging from boredom to contempt. "Honored representatives," John began, "I come before you with evidence that Alliance policies have deliberately hindered Earth's development. We request an immediate end to these practices and compensation for." High Counselor Vex Tor, a tall being with blue-tinted skin, raised a hand to silence him. "Ambassador Keller, these accusations are both false and insulting. Humanity has received nothing but guidance and protection from the Alliance." "Then explain these documents," John said, sending the files to the Council's shared system. The Council members made a show of examining the data, but John could tell they had already decided their response. "These appear to be forgeries," Vex Tor said dismissively. "In fact, their creation suggests that humanity has violated Alliance protocols on data security. Until this matter is investigated, the Council has no choice but to implement additional oversight measures on Earth." John felt cold anger rise in his chest. "So your response to evidence of your wrongdoing is to punish us further?" "You are dismissed, Ambassador," Vex Tor said coldly. Back on Earth, the planet's leaders gathered in a secure room deep beneath the old United Nations building in New York. President William Clark looked grim as he addressed the small group. "The diplomatic approach has failed," he announced. "The Alliance doesn't see us as equals and never will." Admiral Dennis Coleman, head of the Earth Defense Force, spoke up. "Then it's time to show them what humanity is truly capable of." "Operation Thunderbolt is ready?" the President asked. Coleman nodded. "The fleet is nearly complete, all built with our own technology, not their sabotaged hand-me-downs." Lisa Harper, seated near the end of the table, thought about what this meant. Decades of plain